Hey everyone, and welcome back to Small Engine Edge. Are you thinking about starting a small engine repair company, or you've started one, but you're really struggling to make a profit in your business? I'm going to show you some of the most common mistakes that small engine repair businesses or people make when they're starting out that cost them a lot of money in the long run. And I'm going to show you how to maximize those profits to keep from making those same mistakes that I did starting off. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as we go along if you enjoy the content. Many of you that have been following along already know I started this repair company about 20 years ago. Everything's going great for us, but there were a lot of speed bumps along the way. We made lots of mistakes. It cost us a lot of time and money to get out of some of the things that we started with. First off, charging too little for your services, okay? We charged $45 an hour when we started out, which was less than half of what most of the bigger guys out there were charging. And we stayed that way for a very long time. That's fine since I was doing it on the side, but I really should have raised my rates a lot earlier. Number one, when you're charging that little money to customers, they don't think you're worth what the big guys are charging. It's not just you have lower overhead, but you're worth more than that once you have enough knowledge to be able to provide the service that the big guys do. Do not undercut yourself. Don't charge so little money that you're not making any profit or you're making little profit. Value the services that you're giving to your customers, and they're going to value it too. Marketing your business. That is something that you've really got to do to get the word out there. Word of mouth does spread, and it is the most valuable, I think, of everything, but it's going to organically grow you slower. Market your business on especially some of the other places that I've talked about, Facebook and Nextdoor and Craigslist and some of these other places. If you market yourself with free or very low cost advertising, that's going to get you to pick up customers very quickly. I grew extremely slow organically with no cost whatsoever to me, but if I would have done it a little bit different, I think I probably could have been in a commercial location 2 or 3 years before I did. And without any more cost to me, but I didn't effectively market myself. I was more worried about the business side and the repair side than any of the marketing. So I had to learn that, and that I was making a mistake with that. Don't make that same mistake. Market yourself, charge a good amount of money, and your customers will definitely flock to you as long as you know what you're doing. Tracking business expense and profit is something you definitely need to do. If you're doing everything on paper or not keeping any records of anything, you have zero idea how much you're making. Even if you're just keeping a log of your invoices, you see all that income and you think, hey, that's wonderful. I'm making all this money. But if you're not tracking those expenses, that's not actually money you're making. You have a lot of expenses that go along with the business. You should be carrying insurance, absolutely. There's no doubt about that, but there's a lot of expenses. Insurance, you've got overhead, you've got supplies, materials, and the time that it's costing you. Don't just look at those top line profits and say, hey, I'm making great money at this, because a lot of times by the time you figure all the expenses, you're making little to no money. So know your numbers, know your profit and loss, keep some sort of record. We use QuickBooks. Now it works great. We used to use another accounting software called Peachtree, but know what your profits and your losses are. Keep track of all of that, and do not commingle your funds with your personal funds, because then you just really don't know, and that opens you up to a lot of gray area should you ever get audited. You should be able to explain every profit on your bank statement and every expense on your bank statement. If you can't explain those things, if the IRS ever comes knocking, you're going to be in real big trouble. That's for sure. I always had a problem when I first started out. I never wanted to upsell anybody. I never wanted to tell them about additional things that they may need. I wanted to always stay the cheapest. I wanted to always stay the person that they could go to, not pay a lot of money and get it done. Well, if you see some of these things that they may need done, recommend those. If the blade's completely dull, recommend that, because that's going to not only help the customer, but that's going to maximize your profit. If you see it's the very end of the year and you know this mower is going to be sitting, or this snow blower or whatever is going to be sitting for 6 months before it's used, recommend some sort of fuel stabilizer that you're using. Recommend you fill it with ethanol-free fuel. You can provide those services and you can charge for those, and that's going to help you and the customer. They're going to be happy when their equipment starts 6 months from now, instead of just doing whatever it takes to get it started to begin with. If you don't follow through with taking care of that in the long run, any of those things that you don't offer customers think that those are your fault. If it goes back out and you could have recommended a belt that was cracked and you didn't, and it breaks 3 weeks later, well, they didn't do a good job. And that's true because you didn't recommend something that could have helped the customer out and it could have maximized your profit also. Always fully check anything out. The customers usually don't know what they want when they come in. If they knew what was wrong with it, they would not have brought it to you to fix 9 times out of 10. So be thorough with your work, look at everything completely, and recommend those upgrades, those upsells, as you want to call it, in different places. But be very thorough with all of that and do not just focus on whatever they're asking you to do. That will help you a lot with both the recommendations you're going to get from people, customer satisfaction, and profits all together. It'll help with all of those things by just taking a quick look at other things that may or may not be done. Right along with your expenses up there, tracking all your business profit and expense, you've got to learn to put some of your money aside for taxes. You're going to be taxed on these things, and depending on what your tax rate is, you could owe a large bill at the end of the year. I did that for quite a few years where I wouldn't pay quarterly, and it depends on what kind of location you're in, whether you're in the US or Canada, and what state you're in, how you should be paying these, but make sure you put that money aside. My recommendation is put 15 or 20% of all of your profits aside just for taxes. I always like to tell people take another 15 to 20% to put aside for business growth. Those are investments back into the business. You keep the remaining 60% of profits, and that's how you're going to grow. If you don't invest back into the business, if you don't have money put aside to grow the business or to cover expenses if they come up, you're not going to be around very long. You're going to eventually come incur some expense that either you're A, going to have to get a loan out for, or B, you're just going to go under. You're not going to have money to pay it. It's going to very well hurt you badly. Put that money aside for both taxes and for growth, and that's going to help you a lot. Plan also accordingly for your winter months. Your winter months are going to be less income normally, depending on where you're at. But around here, we do 40 to 50% less income during the winter months. And that's around here 4 or 5 months out of the year. So you've got to take that large profit you're making during those 3 busy months or 4 busy months, depending on where you're at, and you've got to put that money aside. You've got to be smart with that money and not just go blow it. Hey, I've got all this money sitting here. Well, sure you do, but you're going to need that down the line. Be smart with your finances. Consult a financial advisor if you need to. Consult an accountant for some of the bookkeeping things. Get people to help you. And there's not a huge cost to that in most instances. You can get that stuff done for very cheap if you're still the one doing the accountant, but you just have a consultation from one of these people. That, or there's a lot of finance attorneys that are great with stuff like this that can give you general advice. Consult one of those. Don't just try to tackle everything on your own without getting some professional advice to guide you. Now that you know some of the biggest mistakes that I've made, you can understand that everybody out there needs help when they're just starting off. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made starting off or that you made recently that have cost you time or money or frustration getting taken care of and aren't the best thing for people to go through? I'd like to hear from you down below. For instance, DK's Mower Repair. It's 2 12-year-old kids. They're just starting out, doing a few videos here and there. I'll put a link to that down below. Check them out. But that's great. Starting off early, learning early, continue to grow as you're moving forward. That's how all of us should do, whether we're 38 years old or 12 years old or 68 years old. Continue to grow your knowledge, continue to grow your business, and you're going to go very far in life, not just in small engine repair. Continue to think positive, continue to think big, continue to thrive in all that you do. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring that bell so you're notified each time. And I wish you well in your small engine endeavors. Check out our other videos so you can see some of the other tips we have for continuing to grow this way.